So the Prime Minister returns to Canada tonight after making a series of agreements for closer collaboration with the United States. They include a plan to cut methane gas emissions to tackle climate change, greater efforts to protect and defend the Arctic, and new measures to ease the backlog at several border crossings. Under that agreement, there will be an expansion of pre-clearance to 4 more air and rail points. Canada will proceed with the final phase of an entry and exit tracking system and share no-fly list information. So will these steps be enough to speed up travel but keep the border secure? And does the agreement put security ahead of privacy rights? Earlier this afternoon, I put those questions to the Prime Minister. Here's that conversation. And joining me now, the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. Nice to see you, Prime Minister.
Good to see you, Rosie.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You've talked a lot over the course of the visit about the shared values between you and the President. He's coming to the end of his time in office. You're just starting. He made a lot of promises, ambitious agenda. You've made a lot of promises, ambitious agenda. So when you sat down in that Oval Office, did he say anything to you about, here's how you should actually try and deliver on some of these things, or here's how you manage the expectations around this?
We had an hour in the Oval Office, which seems like a lot of time, but we covered so much ground in terms of files that we're actually working on now that there wasn't a lot of time for introspection or friendly advice. We've got things we have to get cracking on for our economies, around border issues, around climate change, and it was really focused on a working meeting, and we're really happy with what came out of it.
Okay, well, let's talk about what came out of it. The border in particular interests me, because I think it's an area where Canadians are going to see some changes immediately. It will help them in a lot of ways. But we had to give up a lot to do it too. We had to give up a lot of information and agree to share it with Americans. What do you say to Canadians who are concerned about sharing private data with the United States?
Well, actually, what Canadians expect is for governments to keep them safe and protect our interests at the same time. And the entry-exit visa is simply a question of when you cross the border into the United States, the Americans will share birthday and name and identification information with Canadians, so we know who's leaving our country. And similarly, when people come across the border into Canada, we will share that biographical basic information to Americans, so they know who's leaving their country. It's just a better way of controlling who's in and who's not in your country. For example, around the situation of international terrorists, if we don't know whether someone has left our country or not, that will affect the way we engage or are concerned about them. So having more information about who's actually in our country or not is very reasonable. And it's the kind of thing that the Canadians I've spoken to are happy that we're moving ahead with.
But yet the Privacy Commissioner has warned there are concerns about doing it. We know that there have been problems in the past with the United States, screwing up information. Look at Meher Arar. So you don't think that we're giving up too much here by sharing this?
We have been working with the Privacy Commissioner on this because, like all Canadians, we're concerned about making sure that we're getting that balance right between security and rights and privacy. So we're comfortable that we're definitely on the right track with this. And on the idea of errors and concerns, one of the things that we agreed to is a process around no-fly lists and better communication so that we can actually remove false positives from the system.
We heard, though, and many people have told us that there was some vigorous discussion around the cabinet table on this. Did you disappoint some people in cabinet because you had to give up some of this to the Americans?
I'm not going to talk about what we discussed at cabinet, but I can certainly say that we are all agreed that this is good for Canadian jobs, it's good for Canadians back and forth across the border, and it's good in terms of protecting both our values and our security.
Did you have to defend it and sell it, though, to some people within your cabinet?
I am very, very pleased that we are of one mind, that better engagement with the United States and a better security of Canadians was a really important thing, and we're glad that it's one of the big announcements we have out of this meeting.
The other big one was climate, which is something both for Mr. Obama is going to be a legacy item for him. You probably hope the same thing, yet you made more commitments, put more targets in place, and you still don't have a deal with the provinces. So how do you make commitments here in Washington and you still can't get a deal with the provinces?
Well, you might have missed this, Rosie, but 2 weeks ago we actually got a deal with the provinces where they agreed to our...
I didn't miss anything. You only agreed to meet in 6 months' time to come up with a deal.
We agreed that we adopted the Paris targets.
Yeah.
We agreed to have national targets that everyone agreed to, and we agreed that the solution would include pricing carbon right across the country. Those are significant milestones that we achieved, and we achieved more milestones with President Obama today. yesterday. And that movement and leadership, not just by individual countries, but by a continent working together, is the kinds of things we need more of in the world.
Right, but a lot of that agreement yesterday talked about the fact that you still have to talk to the provinces, you still have to talk to Indigenous leaders, and you plan to do that in 6 months' time. So you're essentially committing to something that you still have to negotiate with the provinces 6 months from now.
But in Canada, we always engage. I mean, the problem is that we didn't engage before with Indigenous leaders, and there was no conversation with the provinces. And for what Canadians ask is that we have a government that respects the provinces and renews a relationship with Indigenous peoples while significantly moving forward on important files to everyone. And that's what climate change is, and that's exactly what we've succeeded to do, both with the President here in Washington and with the premiers in Vancouver 2 weeks ago.
You went to Capitol Hill yesterday. You spent a little bit of time up there meeting with Republicans and Democrats. What kind of connections did you make there that will bring you beyond this administration and into 2017 that will be important for you?
Very much. One of the nice things was, yes, there was a good representation from border states, places like Minnesota and Alaska and Washington, but there was also an awful lot of other representatives from throughout the country talking about how important Canada was to their state. Georgia's a good example, for example, in terms of trade and exchange and tourism and a broad range of things. So what we were really able to do was open up lines of communication and engage in a constructive way on issues. I mean, they asked me questions on everything from trade to security to international engagement, and I think it was a wonderful reminder for a lot of people there that we really are very much aligned in our values and in our perspective around big issues.
Did anyone say to you, we haven't had these conversations in a while, it's nice that you're up here knocking on our door? Did anyone appreciate the fact that you bothered to go there and talk to them in the first place?
Well, again, the meetings are always so compressed in time. I mean, we had half an hour, 45 minutes with various meetings, but there's so much to talk about in our friendship and our relationship. We didn't spend a lot of time saying, oh, it was this way or that way before. It was very much focused on what do we need to do now, and mostly, what do we need to do in the coming months and years to help our citizens?
Well, were there misconceptions expressed by anybody? Capitol Hill is often a place where there is a fair amount of protectionism that comes out of both houses. There's people that think that security at the border is not strong enough. Some of them point to the Syrian refugee issue and the fact that we brought so many in so quickly. They had real concerns up there about that. So were you able to allay any of those fears around that?
Well, actually, the embassy, around the time of those hearings, the embassy did a very good job of allaying a lot of the fears around that. But we did have great conversations around Syrian refugees, and exactly on that interplay of being a country, in Canada, but like in the United States, that was built on so many waves of people looking for a better life for themselves and has led to tremendous success, while at the same time not compromising on security, and getting them both done at the same time in a respectful, responsible way was something that I know planted a seed amongst many people, but others were flat out applauding that we were successful to do that in doing that.
You met with President Obama. You clearly get along well personally. You've obviously got a bit of a friendship going here, but he is on his way out, and that's why you went to Capitol Hill, I would imagine, right, to build some of those relationships. So how do you sort of navigate the next number of months as you wait to find out who the presidential nominees will be and who the next president will be? And does this hold water, what you've done over the past couple of days here? Well,
first of all, I would expect that any time the Prime Minister comes to Washington, he should go to Capitol Hill to meet with lawmakers and respect the importance of Congress, because that's something that I'll try and do every time I come down. More than that, I mean, many of the things we agreed to, like the border issues, will start having a real impact in the short term and lay a track for a much better access of people and of goods in a more secure way across the border. So we're already going to see things move in the right direction. But as the President said yesterday, the change in administration that will be coming in November, regardless of which direction they go in, means that it still means that many initiatives and things that we're working on will continue. There's not a flip. Even two people as different as me and Stephen Harper, we're continuing in a number of things that were in Canada's best interest, and certainly the machinery of government and that the depth and complexity of the relationship between our two countries goes far beyond any two personalities in office at any given time.
That may be true, but Stephen Harper and Barack Obama didn't have the warmest relationship, and that hurt them a little bit. You know, I don't think it killed Keystone Pipeline, but it certainly didn't help it. So the fact that you have a warm relationship with him, but it's not going to last much longer because he's not going to be there. Do you have concerns about then how you would establish a friendship with a Donald Trump, say?
I think one of the things that I've been able to demonstrate throughout my leadership is an ability to get along with everyone. When I started as a leader, Pauline Marois was the Premier of Quebec, and obviously I have lots of different points with her, except we were able to sit down and have a very cordial conversation about things that we agreed on and certainly express things we didn't agree on. The relationship between our two countries is too important to both of our countries to allow personalities to freeze the relationship.
Okay, this will be the last question. You were asked a lot about Donald Trump since you were here. Obviously, there's a lot of time and energy spent considering the prospect of Donald Trump as the nominee, the Republican nominee, and even the president. You gave very diplomatic answers, as you would, as Prime Minister, but I'm wondering why you don't speak out more forcefully against some of the things that he has said, which run very counter to anything you believe. Anti-Muslim rhetoric, anti-women rhetoric, building walls against people. Why don't you say what you actually think about him?
I'm a Quebecer who has gone through very divisive fights about the future of Quebec in terms of referendums and everything. And one of the things that, regardless of which side of the fence the Quebecers were on, we were universally of one mind on, is that foreign politicians shouldn't be weighing into domestic issues. And quite frankly, that's certainly something that I'm going to respect. I respect the American electoral process. I have faith in what Lincoln referred to as the better angels of American nature, and I look forward to seeing who I'm going to work with after November 4th.
So you hope the Angels will keep Trump out?
I have great faith in Americans and in their democracy, and regardless of who gets elected, I know that there's plenty of great things to work on between our two countries.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rosie.
Appreciate it very much.
Always a pleasure.